It is time for another tier list. Today we are running through the 2022 projected, confirmed, rumored, whatever starting junglers for the LEC. Obviously, the last week or so, we've been going through all kinds of different tier lists on my channel, trying to get my thoughts and opinions on every single player and position in both the LEC and LCS, in video, to have evidence of, and to just start having some of these discussions. Now that the offseason's over, now that the offseason's winding down, and now that we are starting to prepare for the 2022 regular season and beyond, I think tier lists are really fun. They're really great content because I get to give all my thoughts and opinions and get your guys as well. And I definitely want to hear yours, so make sure you guys comment below, what your tier list looks like, what you think I get right, what you think I get wrong, what you think other people get right and wrong. But as always, be respectful about it. Sharing your opinions is cool. Flaming other people, being an asshole, is not cool. But with that being said, let's get right into this. And I know one of the comments that I've been getting a lot recently is, hey, you got to throw some more people in the F tier. You can't just, stop being soft and skipping over the F tier. You got to go there. So in this video, we'll be starting off in the F tier, going with Gilius. I personally know that Gilius has, he has a decent fan base. Seems like a lot of people like him. He has a long career in the LEC where he's had some good moments. He's had some big moments. He's had some crazy runs. He was part of the Schalke Miracle run, yada, yada, yada. But I'm not a big Gilius fan. I think he's pretty inconsistent. Obviously, part of, the ups and downs of both him and all the teams he's been on is how inconsistent he is. And I think more recently in his career, it's been a lot more lows than, the highs. I don't know. When I look at this SK team, I'm not super impressed with them. Obviously, Gilius was out of the LEC for a while as well, so I don't know how well he's going to be able to come back. I don't think he's a guy with a ton of talent, potential, and growth ahead of him in the future either. So I really don't love him as a pickup for SK. I think it's kind of weird, kind of random. Is he necessarily going to be the worst jungler in the LEC? Maybe, maybe not. There's for sure a case to be made that he's not F tier, that he's not the worst jungler, whatever. But I think there's a case to be made for that as well. And again, if I could have Gilius at a similar level to somebody who's younger, more inexperienced, more growth, more potential, I'm taking the other person every time. So for a team like SK, who's not going to be very good, I'm kind of curious why they wouldn't maybe go a little bit younger, maybe go some ERL players and stuff. And I've had that critique about other players as well, guys like Nuked Up, guys like PromiseQ. I kind of have Gilius in that group right now. But yeah, Gilius fans, I don't know, get mad. But next up in the C tier, I'm going with Syncroft. This guy, I know he's a hyped up prospect coming out of the ERLs from K-Corp. I know Team BDS is kind of K-Corp 2.0 or whatever. They have a lot of the old K-Corp guys together, and that's really exciting and awesome for people. They have Grabs coaching them. But at the same time, however good you think K-Corp is, however much talent, potential, promise, whatever you think all these guys have, this is a very, very young, inexperienced team. And also, there's some questions about how well Grabs is going to do with a younger team. But either way, I think the LEC is the LEC for a reason. I don't think the K-Corp teams and players are close to these guys. I know everyone's like, oh, K-Corp would make the playoffs in the LEC, or oh, K-Corp would, make it to Worlds or whatever. But, I really don't believe that. I do think that the LEC is the best of the best. I think even when you're coming in, even when you're showing some talent, potential, promise in the ERLs, these things still take time. There's always going to be growing pains. I could see Syncroft being good in the future, but I don't think he's going to come out and be a banger jungler right off the bat. Yes, that does happen for some people every once in a while, but it is it's not the norm for sure. I think Syncroft will be cool, but again, he has a young and experienced team around him. I think it's going to be a whole lot of mistakes going on from a lot of the different players. It's going to make some of them look worse. It's going to take them longer to develop and get comfortable. So, I'm going to be keeping him down in the C tier. Next up, I'm going to be going with Schlatten, Schlatan, I don't know how you say it, but this is obviously the Misfits jungler replacing Razork. And I think Misfits overall is a better roster than BDS. So yes, this is another, more inexperienced guy, another ERL player coming up, but he's also very, very hyped up. People are really, really excited about him, and I know Misfits are really excited about him as well. And yes, he does have big shoes to fill, replacing Razork, building off what Misfits was able to do last year, as to where a guy like Syncroft, he's coming into, what was the 10th place team in the LEC last year, maybe a little bit lower expectations. But, Syncroft getting to be the duo with Nuclear Int, I think Schlatten is in a lot better position getting to be the duo with Video, and I think Misfits is going to be a good team. I think Schlatten's going to be put in more positions for success early on, and I think that's really going to set him up well, and I'm excited for him. I think he is going to do well, but again, I would like to see some of that first. I'd like to see improvement first. You know, we'll see just how good he's able to be. I'm going to be putting him in the C tier. Next up, I have Zanzara. He's kind of a hard guy to rate for me. I know some people say he had some good performances. He was kind of consistent last year. Not ever consistently amazing or great, but consistently good, at least consistently good enough. He kind of plays whatever the team needs. You know, he has a lot of those tank picks, a lot of like the Skarner memes, Trundle, stuff like that. He's kind of a funny, interesting guy. I know Astralis is kind of building like their brand around him because he's a cheap player too, like that they can just get and hang on to and know that he's going to be there. He's reliable, he's dependent, but again, he's not great. He's not amazing. This Astralis team, I don't really have that high of hopes for them. I think Zanzara, you know, probably deserves a spot in the LEC. He's probably top 10, but I don't think he's like, you know, consistently impressing me or anything like that, consistently making me want to move him up this list at all. So I have him in the C tier. I have him kind of in with those younger, more inexperienced players. Kind of, we'll see who's able to break out of that group. But again, I think these bottom four is pretty clearly the bottom four junglers in the LEC to me. If you had to, these guys moved around a little bit, you know, if you think Zanzara sucks, if you think Syncroft's overrated, if you think Gillies is a little bit better, if you think Schlotten's going to suck, you know, I wouldn't really mind moving these guys around in any order, but this is kind of where I have the bottom four right now. But I do think that this is clearly, or pretty clearly, the bottom four. Next up, I am going to have Marcoon in the B tier. This is a guy who really impressed me last year. He impressed a lot of people. You know, Marcoon and Advian really came in and turned a lot of things around for Excel. They really look like a whole different team. Not only were they playing fast, fun, interesting, exciting League of Legends, they were playing good League of Legends. They were winning games, and this was a scary team by the end of the year. And yes, we'll see how good Marcoon is able to do next year. You know, sometimes people have the sophomore slump. Sometimes the meta last year was just good for them. Sometimes they just clicked at the right time. Sometimes other teams didn't have a lot of scouting on them or didn't really know what to expect from them. And now that teams have a whole offseason to prepare for guys like Marcoon and this Excel team, we'll see what happens. But I do think Marcoon is in a good spot. I think Excel is going to be a solid team this year. I think, you know, he's going to be more experienced. He's going to be able to grow off the performances he had last year. And overall, I think he'll be able to come in and do a pretty good job. I think he's going to be fun, interesting, exciting to watch. Yeah, I don't know. I have pretty high hopes for Marcoon, and we will have to see how that goes. I feel like I'm missing somebody off this list. Let me check real quick. Do we have all the junglers? Who do I not have? Okay, I think I have everybody. Yeah, okay, whatever. Just making sure I had everybody. I believe I do. All right, next up, we're going to be getting into the A tier, where I'm going to be going with Malrong. There's a couple guys in this top five. You know, this is kind of the bottom five for me. Top five for me. Is a little bit harder to differentiate. You know, Malrong is an interesting guy. Obviously, we saw him with Damwon Kia before, and he had some good performances. He put up some good stats. He had some good games. Damwon Kia wasn't, you know, necessarily terrible when he was playing. You know, they were overall decent. And again, he had some good performances. He had some good games. He had good stats. But also, getting to play on Damwon Kia with, you know, studs all around you, getting to play in the LCK, I think is way different than trying to come over to Europe and play with this Rogue team. You know, getting to play with Showmaker and some of these other guys is different than coming over and playing with Larson and Trimby, you know, as like your Jung mid and your Jung support synergy and duo. Also, how well is he going to fit in Europe? How's the culture shock going to be? How's the travel going to be? How's the language going to be? There's a lot of different factors going on. I think Malrong is a very talented player. I think he has a lot of natural ability and capabilities, but again, I have some question marks about how well he'll be able to kind of bring that all over to Europe. Also, how well he's going to fit in with this Rogue team. He could come in and show them how to be winners and how to have a winning attitude and mentality and get over some of their mental hurdles that they maybe have, or, you know, maybe it'll just be a terrible environment and it'll all kind of fall apart. Because again, he's replacing Inspired, who was an absolute beast for Rogue last year in so many ways. Not that Malrong can't be a beast, but he does have some big shoes to fill for sure. Next up in the A tier, I'm going to be going, I guess it's really hard for me to decide between these two guys. I'll be putting Razork, but I do think Razork and Elyoya are so close, and I want to put Razork over Elyoya. I really think Razork's better, but one, I know it's going to be really unpopular because Mad Lions has a ton of fans, Elyoya has a ton of fans, Mad Lions back-to-back LEC champion. But I do think Elyoya got to play on a lot better team in Mad Lions than Razork did last year. I also think Mad Lions now is worse. You know, Elyoya getting to jungle for Humanoid is different than Elyoya getting to jungle for Reeker. Yes, Kaiser is still there, and that's going to be awesome help for Elyoya. Yes, Elyoya is a year more experienced. He's a year better, a year stronger, all of that. But just like I was talking about for Marcoon, sophomore slump does exist. Getting a scouting report on people does exist. And again, overall, your lineup being worse, definitely League of Legends is a team game. That can definitely hurt you as a player individually. I don't know. I think Elyoya is awesome. I think he's great. He does a lot of awesome things, especially for how young and inexperienced he was. Being able to come in and have the year he had was awesome. But also, on one hand, I do think that people possibly overrate him a little bit. And also, I think Razork is a little bit underrated. This guy was an MVP candidate on Misfits in the summer split, and now he's going to a Fnatic team that is locked and loaded. This roster looks so good. Now it's Razork who gets to jungle for Humanoid. He's got Wunder in the top lane. He has probably the best bot lane in the LEC. He has just a stacked veteran team all around him, and he's this young player with a ton of talent, promise, and potential who's also going to continue to develop, just like Elyoya, just like Marcoon. But I just think he's in a little bit better spot headed into 2022 than Elyoya is. Elyoya fans, don't crucify me, please. Mad Lions fans, don't come for me, please. But I would much rather jungle for Wunder and Humanoid than Arma and Reeker. So yeah, we'll have to see how this one goes. But yeah, I don't think Mad Lion's going to have the success they had last year. I don't know if Elyoya will have all the success he had last year. And I really expect Razork to take another big step forward this year. But now, getting into the A tier, I have Selfmade. I think people are kind of forgetting about this guy a little tiny bit. Obviously, everyone knows Selfmade's still awesome. He's still great. But man, I really think that the year he had, the split he had in the summer split with Vitality last year was super impressive. This guy was jungling with Leader, Sigenda, and SLT as his solo laners, and he was still standing out as one of the best junglers in the league. That is hard to do. That Vitality team was not good, and Selfmade still took them to the playoffs, had them competitive. I think, what did they lost 3-2 to Fnatic in the playoffs? Selfmade, I really think he had such a good split for Vitality. I think he was really on his game. I know Spring split with Fnatic wasn't that great, but that Spring meta was also really weird. A lot of weird jungling, a lot of power farming. It was kind of hard for junglers all over the world to get too involved in games. And then again, I really think he came back in the summer split and had a very good showing and very good performance. And it kind of got overshadowed by Vitality not really having the best record, not really being that good of a team. But I expect Selfmade to come out guns a-blazing this year with Alphari and Perkz as a solo laners. They have this awesome stacked super team lineup. I think Selfmade is absolutely a part of that. I could easily see him being the best jungler in the league, but for me right now, it is too hard to put anybody above Jankos as the best jungler in the league. Even though G2 struggled last year, even though G2 didn't make it to MSI, didn't make it to Worlds, didn't make it to either championship, I still think Jankos was a beast in an inconsistent team. Wunder is inconsistent. Mickey was inconsistent at times. Rekkles was inconsistent at times. Even Caps really looked bad some weeks. And Jankos had his moments too of not necessarily looking great or not necessarily looking like the best. But really, when I look at it throughout the whole season, I think Jankos was probably the most consistent and probably the best. I don't know. Rekkles was still, in my opinion, pretty damn good last year. But Jankos was probably the best player for G2 all year last year. And if you think G2 is going to solve some problems going into this year, if you think Jankos and Caps are going to rebound from kind of, lackluster years, at least relatively so, speaking of themselves that they had last year, I think it's hard to take Jankos out of the S tier. I think it's hard to take Jankos out of the top spot. But this is how I see my tier list. Again, very early days. It's November still, headed into the 2022 season. Things could change. I could change my mind. We could all change our minds. But this is what I'm looking at right now for my LEC jungler tier list headed into the 2022 season. Definitely drop a like if you guys did enjoy this video. I would appreciate it so much. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what your tier list is. What you think I got right. What you think I got wrong. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts and opinions. Subscribe, save today, and all my latest content. Hope I catch you guys in the next one. But until then, peace.